Today is our third wedding anniversary, and I was sitting in his office with my husband. The air was chilled and scentless, a stark contrast to the celebration unfolding beyond the glass wall. Outside, I could see that an array of elegant, sophisticated, exotic, and unique desserts, pavlovas with berries and figs, creme brulees, and mango panna cotta cake, were being enjoyed by all the staff. This was a requirement, a performance of our wealth and status. As soon as I entered the floor of the company, everyone started congratulating me. A wave of genuine-looking happiness washed over me as people kept approaching, their well wishes following me like a persistent echo until the heavy office door closed behind me. Then, after that, the beautiful smiles and nice gestures with which they were congratulating us inside the office created a very beautiful scene to me. For me, it was like I had achieved everything. And then, suddenly, everything fell apart, shattering like glass on marble. The tension between me and my husband was a silent, cold current in the room. And then it broke. His voice slowly got louder, a controlled tremor before the earthquake. He held my hand, his grip tight, and brought me in front of all the staff, their faces frozen in mid-smile. He shouted that whatever I am today, I am because of him. All these luxury facilities are because of him. I married you and gave you such a big position in my company. Otherwise, you could not have reached this place for the rest of your life. You were just a middle-class girl, a small company's worker. Think of you, your position before and now. His words were not just spoken, they were brandished, each one a weapon designed to reduce the world I had built back to dust.
My name is Sanvi Roy, and I'm 26 years old. I graduated from the Glasgow School of Art with a Master of Fine Arts in Graphic Design. I grew up in London in a middle-class family where dreams were earned, not handed down. My parents taught me the value of hard work and humility, lessons that shaped both my character and my art. I've always believed that good design isn't just about color or layout, it's about emotion, about telling stories that words can't. That belief carried me from student projects to real clients and now to a small but passionate creative agency where I work as part of the design team. People often say I'm known for my grace, dedication, and quiet confidence. I never paid much attention to that. I just focused on my work. But somehow through persistence and sleepless nights on overseas projects, I found myself promoted to design team leader, trusted to guide others the way I once sought guidance myself. It felt like life was finally rewarding my efforts. But little did I know, the real story was just about to begin. Jaden Brooks, age 32, a famous businessman who runs a constellation of companies, one of which conveniently orbited the world of design art. Jaden's character is very arrogant, fake in the sense that he constantly performs his luxury and wealth for an audience. He is a clever man, capable of finding business opportunities all around, his natural habitat the upper floors of the Shard, the 72-story, pyramid-shaped skyscraper that pierces the London skyline and Southwark. Our beginning was a cliche he probably thought was original. I was at the Shard for agency work, my focus buried in color swatches and layout designs. He entered the room and the manager immediately straightened up and introduced Jaden Brooks in a hushed, respectful tone as the boss and company owner. After a formal hello, I merely nodded and returned to my work, treating him with a professional detachment he was clearly unaccustomed to. I felt his vibe immediately, high-handed, peremptory, a man who expected the world to be a well-rehearsed play starring himself. And that was the hook. He was rich, and every woman typically flattered him. But my indifference was a novelty. He proposed. I was not much interested, my instincts screaming that he was arrogant and his world was a beautifully staged set. But at last, worn down by a persistence that felt like a force of nature, I accepted his proposal.
If I never liked Jaden's personality so much, then why did I marry him? I'll expose later, but for now, at last, we got married. The event was less a union and more a transaction of opulence. His gifts were a torrent of branded validation, perfused from Clive Christian No. 1, a wardrobe of hand-stitched dresses from Valentino, a collection of Hermès Birkin bags in every color, and jewelry sets from Cartier that felt cold against my skin. The final piece was a diamond set from Harry Winston, a constellation of stones so brilliant they seemed to steal the light from the room. And parked outside was a Ferrari Roma, its Razzo Corsa paint, a glaring symbol of my new life. Today is my first day at Jaden's house, and I'm surprised to see his house. I'm from a middle-class family, and I had never seen such a beautiful villa like this. The structure was a modern masterpiece of glass and steel, set behind grand gates. The moment I stepped inside, my breath caught. The double-height ceiling was dominated by a chandelier, a sprawling, intricate piece of art with countless bohemian crystals that cast rainbows across the Carrara marble floors. The living room was vast, with a wall that slid away to reveal the garden, and housed a television so seamlessly integrated it looked like a black mirror went off. The main bedroom was a suite larger than my entire childhood slat, with a bed that seemed to float in the center, and a bathroom featuring a sunken tub. The garden was a vast, perfumed paradise, landscaped with rare, costly plants, night-blooming jasmine, gardenias, and ancient bonsai trees. Their fragrance mingled in the evening air, a natural perfume for a man-made Eden. And in the climate-controlled carport, his mechanical jewels gleamed. A brutal Bugatti Chiron, a sleek Porsche 911 Carrera 4, and a menacing Mercedes-AMG GTR, all waiting for his command. Jayden took me for our honeymoon in Paris and Italy, a long tour that felt like it had been ripped from the pages of a fantasy. In Paris, our days were a blur of impossible beauty. We dined at Les Jules Verne, the Eiffel Tower seeming close enough to touch from our table, where we ate delicate langoustines and drank champagne that tasted of tiny bubbles and fortune. We walked along the Seine, and he bought out a private viewing room at the Louvre where the Mona Lisa smiled her secret smile just for us.
In Italy, the romance was older, deeper. In Florence, we ate a bistecca alla Fiorentina in a centuries-old cellar, the meat charred and salty. And in Venice, we drifted through silent canals after midnight, the only sound the dip of the gondolier's oar. We tasted fresh, sun-warmed tomatoes in Capri and drank wine from a vineyard older than both our families combined. It was a fairy tale, meticulously planned and exquisitely executed. He filled our days with so much beauty that it was easy to ignore the quiet, to mistake the grand gesture for genuine connection. We raced through lavender fields in Provence in a convertible he rented just for the afternoon, the purple streaks a perfumed watercolor. And he hired a private guide to take us through the ruins of a Roman castle, his voice echoing with a history that felt more solid than our new marriage. Every moment was a photograph, every meal a masterpiece, but it was also fast, so perfect, that it began to feel like a beautiful, empty shell. And when we returned, I tried to fill that shell. I made it my quiet mission to find the human rhythm beneath the sterile perfection of our new life. I took care to be the perfect wife, with small, good gestures that I hoped would anchor us. I made coffee myself every morning, even with a staff of 5 who were more than capable, because I needed to do something that felt real. I learned the exact pressure for the tamper on his espresso machine to create the perfect crema on his single-origin Colombian brew. I would wake before the housekeeper to personally prepare his breakfast: scrambled eggs with white truffle, smoked salmon from Harrods, and sourdough from the baker he favored, ensuring that avocado was always at the perfect peak of ripeness. It was a small, defiant act of love, or perhaps just a stubborn habit from my old life, a thread of genuine care I tried to weave into the opulent and personal tapestry of our world. I remember the first time I brought him the tray. His surprise was not the warm, grateful kind, but the sort one has when a familiar piece of furniture has been moved. He simply nodded, as if my effort was a service he had finally and rightfully received. But I persisted. I was trying to build a home inside a museum, hoping that if I poured enough of my own soul into the marble and glass, it might eventually become one.
The silence in the villa was beginning to echo. It was a polished, expensive silence, broken only by the whisper of central air and the distant, efficient footsteps of the staff. I felt myself becoming a beautiful object in a beautiful museum, dusted and cared for, but with no purpose. My art, my passion, was atrophying inside me. One day, gathering my courage, I requested Jayden that I wanted to join the company. I feel so bored and useless here, I confessed, gesturing to the vast, empty luxury around us. My skills are resting. I need to work. To my astonishment, Jayden instantly agreed. His response was so immediate, so devoid of the resistance I had braced for, that it left me more unsettled than reassured. I had built a whole argument in my head, prepared for him to say, "We have everything. You don't need to join the company. Just chilling a life and enjoy luxurious places. Wherever you want to go, just go. Whatever you want to buy it." That was the script of our life, wasn't it? His instant yes felt like a door swinging open too easily, making me wonder what was on the other side. Anyways, this was what I wanted, and I got it. The office, my real passion, my identity, was being returned to me. It felt like one of the newest beginnings of my life. I joined the design and innovation department, a sub-department of Jayden's vast corporate empire.
A poignant shiver ran down my spine the first day I walked in. Yes, this was the same department where Jaden had met me for the first time. The same panoramic windows now framed my new reality. I was determined to be more than just the boss's wife. I was here as Sanvi Roy, MFA, and I intended to prove it. I arrived early, stayed late, and buried myself in the language of vectors, color theory, and user experience. Within a few months, I had earned a position and a genuine authenticity among everyone, from the managers to the office boy. I was becoming respectable and lovable to my colleagues and staff, not because I was Jaden's wife, but because of my hard work and kind actions, just as I had done in my previous, smaller company. I made a point of remembering everyone's names, their kids' birthdays, and how they took their tea. It wasn't a strategy, it was who I was, the last vestige of my middle-class upbringing blossoming in this sterile corporate environment. And here, in this new old world, I found my anchor. A group of loyal friends. There was Leon Arnauld, our UI UX designer, whose mind was a labyrinth of user pathways and elegant interfaces. He saw the world in wireframes and empathy maps, and he was the first to slide a coffee onto my desk late at night, saying, "The user flow is clogged, let's unkink it together." Then there was Anna, our digital imaging specialist, a quiet wizard who could make the impossible look real with a few clicks of her stylus. She had a calming presence, her focus so deep it was almost meditative. Sonia, our web designer and front-end developer, was a firecracker, able to translate our wildest visual concepts into clean, functional code, often muttering affectionate curses at various browsers under her breath. Linwood, our video editor, could stitch together frames to make you laugh or cry on command, his workspace a nest of hard drives and empty packets of his favorite ginger biscuits. And at the top of the list was Sophia, our account manager. She was the bridge between our chaotic creativity and the client's rigid demands, a diplomat with a spine of steel and a heart of gold, who would fiercely defend our team's vision while somehow making the client feel like it was their own brilliant idea.
We became a unit, a small family within the corporate machine. Our corner of the floor was a hub of shared lunches where Sonia would explain the complexities of responsive design while we passed around containers of food, and brainstorming sessions that spilled out onto the whiteboards, filled with Linwood's quick storyboard sketches and Leon's structured notes. In their company, the title of Mrs. Brooks melted away, and I was just Sanvi again. They valued my opinion, laughed at my jokes, and covered for me on the rare morning I was running late. This camaraderie, this sense of belonging forged in shared purpose and mutual respect, was a different kind of wealth, one that the villa's opulence could never provide. It was real, and it was mine. While working at the office, I began to feel a subtle shift, a new current in the air I couldn't ignore. Jaden's secretary, a woman named Alara with a smile that never quite reached her eyes, was getting unusually close to him. It was in the way her hand would linger on his shoulder when she handed him a file, the way she'd laugh a little too brightly at his jokes behind the closed door of his office, and the proprietary way she'd say, "Mr. Brooks is in a very important meeting," even when I knew he was free. Still, I clung to the fraying rope of my trust in Jaden and tried to ignore it, even though the knot of anxiety in my stomach was becoming difficult to dissolve. However, Sophia, who was not only a sharp-eyed colleague, but had also become my confidant and best friend in that concrete jungle, one day saw what I had only feared. She witnessed Jaden and Alara, their bodies angled conspiratorially together, entering the Savoy, one of Jaden's preferred private hotels, in the middle of a working Tuesday. Sophia immediately pulled me into the quiet sanctuary of a studio editing bay, her face pale with fury. "Sanvi, you need to take this seriously," she insisted, her voice low and urgent. "You have to talk to him." But instead of confronting Jaden right away, a cold, strange calm settled over me. The designer in me needed proof, needed to see the data before believing the headline. I told Sophia, "You're my friend and I believe you, but I need to be sure of myself. I can't go to him with just suspicion. He'll twist it, make me feel like I'm going mad."
So my close group, my found family, Sophia, Leon, Anna, and Linwood, began investigating together in a quiet, coordinated campaign. We became a secret cell of truth seekers operating in the heart of his empire. Leon, with his logical mind for patterns, created a secure digital space for us to share findings, his fingers flying across keyboards to cross-reference calendar entries and expense reports that did not up. He found the digital footprints. Lavish dinners for two, billed as client meetings, and boutique purchases from stores Jaden would never personally frequent. Linwood, with his filmmaker's eye for detail, used his lunch breaks to discreetly verify timestamps and locations, his presence with a camera so normal it was invisible.
Anna, our digital imaging specialist, examined the few photos we had, enhancing backgrounds and reading the body language in the pixels with a chilling accuracy. And Sophia, our master communicator, gently extracted tidbits from the gossips in the accounts department, piecing together the financial narrative of his deception. They started collecting evidence, showing how Jaden was giving his secretary expensive gifts, taking her to hotels, and dating her in secret. It was a mosaic of betrayal, each of them handing me a tile until the entire ugly picture was clear. Once I had gathered all the proof, a solid weight of certainty in my hands, I knew I had to look Ilara in the eye. I went to meet Jaden's secretary in a quiet cafe, far from the office's prying eyes. I placed the printouts on the table between us. The hotel receipts, the gift receipts for jewelry I'd never received, the grainy but undeniable photos. She became very nervous, her confident facade cracking like cheap plaster, and finally admitted, "Yes, there is something between Jaden and me, but he doesn't really love me, he just flirts and plays around. I'm a distraction." Then she revealed another secret that completely shook my life. She looked at me, a flicker of pity in her gaze. "You think you're the first? You think this is the worst of it? He's still married, Sanvi." When I learned about Jaden's first marriage to a woman named Isabel, I was stunned and refused to believe it. It felt like the floor had turned to water beneath my feet. I shouted, "You're lying! You're just blaming my husband to save yourself!" But the secretary, now looking almost bored with my devastation, calmly replied, "Do you remember how Jaden keeps flying to France at least twice a month? What kind of business does he have there so often? Obviously, he goes to meet Isabel. He never divorced her. You're the other woman, my dear." I was trembling, but a steely determination forged in this fire of lies gripped me. I said, "Then prove it. Give me Isabel's address in France. I'll go there myself. And if you're lying, I'll make sure you end up in jail." I took Sophia and Leon with me, my pillars of strength, and we flew to a picturesque town in Provence. The contrast was cruel. The air was sweet with lavender, and the sun warmed ancient stone houses, a world away from London's glass and steel. Finding the address felt like walking to my own execution. When a beautiful, elegant woman with a quiet sadness in her eyes answered the door, holding the hand of a small boy who had Jaden's unmistakable smile, I didn't need to speak. She saw my face, and her own filled with a weary recognition. "You must be Sanvi," she said, her voice heavy with a resignation that told me everything. I wondered when he would do this to someone else. What we discovered turned out to be true. My world collapsed, not with a bang, but with the soft click of that French door closing, sealing me out of the life I thought I had. I couldn't comprehend what to do or whom to trust. Leon and Sophia stood by my side on the quiet French street, comforting me, reminding me that I was strong, and saying, "You have to stand up for yourself. Don't destroy yourself with greed. Punish the one who actually deserves it."
The flight home was a blur. I was a ghost, looking down at the clouds that separated my two realities. The love I thought I had was a forgery, my marriage a bigamous lie. The 3-year anniversary of this fraud was in 2 days. We planned our move with the strategic precision of a military operation. They would be there, my friends, in the office, a wall of silent support. Today is our 3rd wedding anniversary, and I was sitting in his office with my husband. And outside the office, I could see the happiness and excitement on the faces of my colleagues and staff members. They saw the desserts, the celebration, the picture-perfect couple. But they were unaware that the storm was coming and going to destroy everything. My feelings, my dreams. I felt the weight of the USB drive in my clutch, a cold little shard of truth. I entered Jaden's office and confronted him, right there at his desk, surrounded by the trophies of his success about Ilara and Isabel. He looked completely shocked, his anniversary smile freezing and then shattering. At first, he flatly denied everything. He said, "This is nonsense. You're worrying for no reason. I'm a rich man. People will always try to turn you against me. Among the rich, scandals are as common as champagne at their parties. Don't worry, my dear. Hold your head high and stay calm. There's nothing like that going on." He said it with such smooth, rehearsed confidence that if I hadn't stood in that French street, I might have crumbled and believed him. But this time, I had everything. When I questioned him further, my voice eerily steady, he exploded in rage. I placed the evidence before him. Photos from Provence, receipts for diamonds Ilara wore, the printed transcript of Isabel's testimony. He looked panicked, his eyes darting like a cornered animal's, then furious. His face contorted into a mask of such pure hatred, I felt he could kill me right there. Realizing he was cornered, with no elegant lie left to spin, he grabbed my arm, his fingers digging into my flesh, and dragged me out of the office in front of the entire staff and humiliated me publicly. The celebration fell silent. He shouted, "You were nothing before me, just an ordinary office girl. Whatever you are today is because of me. My wealth erased your poverty.
And now you turn against me. Enough. You can't live with me anymore. If you want to stay, stay quietly at home and remember your place. That night, his words echoed in my mind like burning knives, each one searing away the last remnant of love I might have foolishly clung to. Days passed, I couldn't return to the office. I was drowning in shame, hurt, and a profound confusion, not knowing how to face the world again or piece together a self that he had so thoroughly shattered. But in the quiet of the villa, amidst the oppressive luxury, a new feeling began to stir beneath the grief, a cold, clear flame of resolve.
It had been 3 weeks since I'd been staying at my father's house. The familiar, slightly warm comfort of my old room should have been a solace, but it felt like a cage. The floral wallpaper I'd picked out as a teenager now seemed to press in on me, the patterns twisting into accusatory shapes in the dim light. My mind kept circling around the same poisoned question. Who was really to blame? Was it Jaden for his masterful deceit? Or was it Sophia and Leon for handing me the truth with such brutal efficiency? For shattering the beautiful illusion I had so desperately needed to believe? The anxiety and depression had grown so heavy that it felt like a physical weight, pinning me to the bed. I didn't even have the energy to speak to anyone, to force my face into the reassuring mask my worried parents deserved. My thoughts were tangled, a snarled ball of yarn. Maybe I was unfairly blaming my friends for being the messengers of my ruin. Maybe not. I didn't even know what was happening inside my own head anymore. I was a ship navigating by a shattered compass, spinning in circles in a vast gray sea of my own grief. For days, I had locked myself inside my room, shutting the world out, letting the dust motes dance in the slivers of sunlight that dared to intrude. It wasn't until I saw the screen of my phone, illuminated by a cascade of missed calls from Sophia and Leon, that I realized how deep I had sunk into the silence. Their names were a persistent heartbeat on the screen, a rhythm from a world I thought I'd lost. Today, again, Leon had called several times, leaving messages one after another. His voice, first concerned, then firm, then edged with a fear I knew was for me, finally pierced the fog. "Sanvi, please, just let us know you're alive. We're not going away." Finally, gathering the courage I once used to face boardrooms, I picked up his call on what must have been his 10th attempt. He sounded relieved, almost emotional, just to hear my voice. "Sanvi," thank God, he breathed, and the sound was a lifeline. He insisted we meet, and even though I kept refusing, muttering excuses about not being ready, he wouldn't take no for an answer. His insistence was not a pressure, but a pull, a steady hand reaching into the dark water where I was drowning. Eventually, after much convincing, the part of me that was still a fighter, the part that earned her place in the shard, agreed. We met at an open-air cafe, a world away from the corporate glass of Jaden's world. The sun felt foreign on my skin. Sophia, Anna, and Leon were already there, waiting, a small island of normalcy in the chaos of my life. They didn't swarm me with pity. Sophia greeted me with a warm, knowing smile that held no judgment, only a fierce loyalty, and said, "Forget the past, Sanvi. It's over. It's time to move forward with your life." I looked at her quietly, my hands wrapped around a coffee cup for warmth, as she continued. "Do you remember how Jaden humiliated you in front of everyone? How did he call you ordinary? He didn't say it to define you, he said it to confine you. You shouldn't let those words be a cage. You should turn them into your fuel, your strength." I stared at her, confused and exhausted, the weight of the last month making the very idea of strength feel like a fairy tale. I asked softly, "And how am I supposed to do that? How do you build strength from ash?" She leaned forward, her eyes blazing with conviction. "By starting your own company. Build something that's yours, not his. Yours, from the ground up." The practicality of it, the sheer scale, was overwhelming. I shook my head, the old fears rising. "It's not that easy, Sophia. Starting a company takes money, a lot of it. And then there are employees, salaries, responsibilities. I can't ask that of anyone. I have nothing to offer." Before I could finish listing the insurmountable obstacles, Sophia and Leon burst into laughter. It wasn't a cruel laugh, but a bright, infectious sound of shared secret. I frowned, half irritated, half curious, the first spark of genuine feeling beyond despair flickering in my chest. "What's so funny about that? It's the truth." He grinned, the same grin he flashed when he solved an impossible coding problem, and said, "You don't have to worry about employees. We've already found 3 people who work for free." I blinked. Sure, I had misheard. "Who's that crazy? Who would do that?" They said in unison, their voices a perfect, harmonious chord of solidarity. "Us!" And in that moment, for the first time in months, a smile, a real, unforced smile that started deep within my soul, touched my lips. It was a small, fragile thing, but it was real.
It wasn't the smile of Jaden's wife or the design team leader or the humiliated woman. It was the smile of Sanvi Roy, surrounded by her friends, on the precipice of her own beginning. The gray sea inside me didn't vanish, but for the first time, I could see a shore. The dream was alive, but the reality was a spreadsheet of daunting numbers. Anyway, to run a company, there are always some essential pieces of equipment you need. Not just the big ticket items like high-spec computers and licensed software, but the lifeblood of daily operations. Paid subscriptions for cloud storage and project management tools. Reliable printers that wouldn't jam during a crucial client pitch. High-resolution scanners. Sensitive graphic tablets that could capture the slightest pressure of a stylus. And the silent ambassadors of our brand. Business cards, portfolios, and other promotional items that help showcase your work. And of course, all of these require money, something I felt I didn't really have at the moment. Not the kind of bottomless wealth I'd been surrounded by, which belonged to Jaden, not to me. But suddenly, my mind, sharpened by necessity, went to my own private sanctuary, my savings. The ones I had quietly, instinctively built up from my salary while working at Jaden's company. It was a fund born of my middle-class upbringing, a nest egg for a rainy day. I logged into the account, my heart thudding, half expecting it to have been frozen by his vindictiveness. But there it was, a sum of $175,000 glowing on the screen. It was more than just money. It was every late night I'd worked, every innovation I'd brought to his company, every ounce of my professional dignity quantified and given back to me. It might not have been enough to run a full company for long against a giant like Brooks Holdings, but it was enough to give me hope and the courage to take the first trembling step off the cliff. At last, we had started our company. We named it Veritas Design. A quiet rebellion, a promise of the truth we now lived by. And guess what? Who was with me? The very soul of our venture, Leon Arnold, our UI UX wizard, Anna, our digital imaging sorceress, Sonia, our front-end coding maestro, Linwood, our visual storyteller, and atop of the list, Sophia, our client whisperer and strategic heart. We found a small, sun-drenched loft in Shoreditch, its brick walls a world away from the sterile chrome of the Shard. It was ours. The air smelled of coffee, ambition, and possibility.
Together, we built a strong company by day and night hard work. We became nocturnal creatures, fueled by pizza and a shared purpose. I saw the best of them in those long hours. Sonia with her headphones on, muttering code like a warrior's chant. Anna, so still and focused, she seemed to stop time itself. Sophia, her voice patient and firm on late-night calls with potential clients in different time zones. But it was Leon who was my constant shadow. Leon, Sophia, and Anna were with me day and night. Especially Leon. I saw him working day and night, pushing himself as hard as if the company were his own life's blood. He was the first to arrive and the last to leave, his presence a steady hum in the space. I knew he did it because he felt my pains, my feelings. He could not afford to let me down again. And in the quiet moments, when he'd slide a fresh cup of tea toward me or gently correct a line of code on my screen, I felt him. It was like feeling soft, warm hands in the cold around me. A quiet, consistent heat meant to make me whole again. I just didn't know what this was, this flutter in my chest, this sense of coming home whenever he was near. I realized it was the love my heart was looking for. Maybe every girl's dream. We were close, with a perfect, unspoken understanding of each other in work and in spirit. But still, a minor barrier was there, a wall built from the rubble of my past. Now, I was at the stage to ruin that barrier. I needed to know. I needed to ask Leon, "Do you love me?" One day, the weather was very romantic. A golden evening light bathed the city, and a gentle breeze whispered through the open fire escape. Leon was outside, on the small balcony we used as a smoking area, holding a cigarette in one hand and a mug of black coffee in the other. He looked so romantic and charming, his profile silhouetted against the setting sun. His expressions were pensive. Perhaps he was thinking deep, his brow furrowed in a way that made me want to smooth the lines away. My heart hammering against my ribs, I went close to him. The city's distant hum felt like a soundtrack to my nervousness. I asked Leon, "I wanted to ask you something different, not about business."
He turned, his eyes curious. "Yes," he said. "So why are you hesitating? Go ahead." I took a shaky breath. "Do you love me?" Now there was silence, a dark, heavy silence that seemed to swallow the sounds of the city, a silence that was cutting my heart into ribbons. I was yearning for an answer, any answer to break the terrible quiet. He never uttered a single word. He just looked at me, his expression unreadable, a storm of something. Pain, confusion, fear in his eyes, before he slowly shook his head, stubbed out his cigarette, and walked back inside without a word. I was unable to understand Leon's behavior. The rejection was a physical blow. I just thought maybe he never loved me. The warmth I felt was just pity, just friendship. The humiliation was a familiar, sickening feeling. After a few days, I couldn't hold it in. I don't know why, but I just talked to Sophia, confessing whatever happened that day in a rushed, embarrassed tumble of words. Sophia laughed, a kind, musical sound. Are you some kind of alien creature? I smiled, a confused and wobbly smile, looking at her in surprise. She was still nodding as if confirming her own words. Then she added softly, leaning in conspiratorially, "Crazy girl, how could you not realize that Leon loves you? A lot! It's written in the way he looks at you when you're not watching. It's in the coding guides for your crazy ideas." And what Sophia said, it was something that touched my body, even my soul. A warmth spread through me, melting the ice of confusion. There was a slight, constant smile on her lips, one of knowing. I asked softly, then what was that all about? What Leon did that day? Why couldn't he just confess his love? Why did he stay silent? Sophia sighed, her smile turning a little sad. Leon thought maybe you were just trying to repay his kindness, that your gratitude was masquerading as something else. I frowned, hurt by the very idea. How could he even think that? And why? Sophia replied gently, because you married Jaden. Leon believed you loved Jaden, or at least that's why you chose to marry him. He thinks he can't compete with that ghost. And in that moment, everything became clear to me. The final piece of the puzzle clicked into place. Now it was my turn. I called him, my voice steadier than I felt. I told Leon, I want to meet you at the same cafe where you once called me, the day I was struggling and you helped me find my way back. Today, I said softly and playfully, I feel like you're the one in trouble, and it's my turn to help you. Before he could say a word, I ended the call, my heart soaring with a newfound power. Today is the biggest day of my new life, and a concretion too. The day I'm finally going to meet true love, a real person. That was the only piece missing. Everything else had already fallen into place. I had become stronger, both financially, with Veritas landing its first major clients, and emotionally, having shed the skin of the woman I used to be.
And now, as Leon stands before me at our table, his eyes full of wary hope, my heart and eyes can't stop looking at him. I whispered, Leon. He looked at me, his guard up. Yes, I love you, I said, the words feeling as natural as breathing. I love you deeply. Then I put my confession in front of him, laying my truth bare. Maybe there was a trace of greed in marrying Jaden, not for money, but for the stage. He presented my career on a silver platter, intertwining grand gestures with business opportunities. He'd surprise me with a lead on a prestigious client after a disagreement, or fund a new software suite I'd mentioned wanting, making my professional advancement feel like a reward for playing my part in his perfect world. I saw a big opportunity to prove myself as a better graphic designer on a global scale, to grow fast and become a solid, undeniable force in the industry. I was naive. I thought I could use his platform to build my own legacy, the kind of pragmatic ambition that hides somewhere in every girl's heart. But love? No, I never loved Jaden. Even Jaden never tried to ignite love within me. He only stoked the fires of my ambition. Maybe I was just an asset to him, a beautiful, talented acquisition. And he never respected my character, my honesty, or my loyalty. They were just traits listed on a spec sheet. And Leon, you are not an asset to me. Or even, I'm not trying to pay back the reward for whatever you had done for me. I wouldn't sink that, though. My love for you isn't a transaction. It's the most real thing I have. Leon, you're the one my heart truly loves, I said softly, my eyes full of tears that now felt like a release. He looked at me for a long moment, the tension melting from his shoulders, replaced by a familiar mischievous glint. He smiled mischievously and teased, "But Linweb is more handsome than me. Why didn't you fall in love with him instead?" I smiled back, real joyful laughter escaping me. I playfully tapped his shoulder and said, "Because I've learned how to read both visible and hidden faces, and your face, Leon Arnott, is the most beautiful one I've ever seen." He suddenly burst into laughter, loud, carefree laughter that filled the air around our table, and then he pulled me into his arms, holding me as if he never let go, as if he already knew what my answer would be, and his heart had just been waiting for mine to catch up. If this story of finding strength in my darkest hour resonated with you, if it made you feel something, then do me a huge favor. Subscribe to the channel, smash that like button, share this story, and become part of the story in the comments. This is the most important part. Your voice matters. I read every single comment. 1, what would you have done in Sanvi's situation? 2. Have you ever had to rebuild yourself from the ground up? 3. What's your definition of true love after hearing this story? Your stories and insights are what make this channel so special. Let's have an incredible conversation down below. And in the last, until then, remember, your past does not define you. Your courage does. Subscribe and let's continue this journey together.